Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Ladies of Sosa podcast. My name is Sahra.
And my name is Christine.
It's been a while since we did an episode. I feel like we missed a week, so we apologize to our audience.
We missed the week right after we did
an episode talking
on how
about
to start a podcast.
Yes, on how to be consistent.
Yes.
But we needed that week to kind of regroup and figure out how we're going to attack this topic that we're talking about today. And it's a pretty sensitive topic. In early January, I believe it was 16 South Sudanese were murdered in the neighboring country of Sudan. And so there has been a lot of controversy and conversation surrounding so much because of, we have so much history between Sudan and South Sudan, and also a lot of contention. And recently, with these recent murders, it kind of re-sparked a new wave of contention, protest. But we're definitely going to get into that. But first, go ahead, Christine. I'm sorry.
Let's introduce the panel. Okay, so we can go around starting with Vaida. And
hey, y'all. It's Vaida. Happy to be here.
Hey, yo, what's up? We back.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. And then KK.
Assalamu alaikum. Hey y'all. It's
Hey.
Assalamu alaikum. It's me, KK. Welcome to podcast with Junubin.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, KK. As Junubin, we are here in a serious podcast, and my name is Tariq. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Beautiful. Okay, so I'm gonna try to recap this as best as I can.
Okay.
So that we can give the audience context on what happened. Okay, so early January of this month, Sudanese Armed Forces, which is like the government military of Sudan at the time. Right now, okay, hold on. Let me rewind a little bit. For those of you who don't know, Sudan is in the middle of a war, a proxy war, and the two main leaders are fighting amongst each other, and the Sudanese civilians are pretty much like the casualties of war, because they're fighting for resources, and then it's being further complicated by outside countries who are getting involved in this conflict. So recently, the Sudan Armed Forces, they reclaimed Wad Madani, Jazeera State, which is like a strategic area of Sudan, which they reclaimed recently, and so they won back that territory. And so in the midst of that, there was celebrations, but also within that, there was a lot of people that were killed by the Sudanese Armed Forces, including South Sudanese who lived in that area. There was a video going around showing like the torture and the killings of I think it was around 16 South Sudanese people that were either wounded or killed in that video.
Things took even a dark turn when a video surfaced online showing South Sudanese nationals being brutalized by Sudanese soldiers, with some reportedly killed.
And this is based on the last episode where we had people from Canada speaking about that there's no good guys in this war between these two factions, and so they are just taking casualties and trying to cause turmoil and make basically things worse,
right?
So that people can point fingers to other people instead of them.
Right.
Correct.
Well, after that happened, there were protests in South Sudan because they were obviously upset about the murder of our own people, and to make it worse, the leader of the Sudanese Armed Forces stated that 60% of South Sudanese living in Sudan are affiliated with the RSF, which is the rebel group. So then, in a way, it's like you're legitimizing the death of these people, because you're saying, well, at this point, we're in the middle of a war, so they're part of the RSF. The RSF is our enemy, so they were just casualties of war. And we don't know if that's the case. So, we don't know if those people are affiliated, but it's like, just to make a blanket statement like that, you're legitimizing the murder of like South Sudanese people in Sudan. So there was protests in South Sudan, and then also you probably saw that Sudanese businesses in South Sudan or Arab-owned businesses were like blown up, destroyed. It was just like a lot of stuff that happened in the aftermath of this situation. And so our president of South Sudan, Salva Kiir, made a statement, pretty much like denouncing the idea that South Sudanese people are a part of the RSF, and also he spoke against the murders of our people, and also said like everybody should calm down because social media has been playing a big role in like increasing violence and like in sparking emotions because people are posting things. There's a lot of truth going out, but then there's also like misinformation that's also being spread around, and then like people promoting violence. So they shut down. The South Sudanese government actually shut down social media for at least 30 days to kind of calm down tension. So just to give everybody that background, we're going to break down all of that and get into the meat and potatoes and talk about how we feel about all of that. But we just wanted to give you guys background. If I missed anything, please.
I think you did a great job covering it. And especially since we just did the episode with the two, was it the scholars?
Yes.
That we're talking about.
Eleman
yes.
and Khalda.
Yes, who broke down the conflict that's happening in Sudan right now. So a lot of people sent us messages about this story and wanted us to cover it.
Yes.
So we tried to get in here as quick as possible. We had some people in Juba that we were going to speak to, but because of the time difference, we just wanted to get the episode out as quick as possible. And then if we do get any other resources, we'll just post those on our page. But yeah, we can go ahead and get into it.
Yeah, let's get into that. So I guess, what are your first thoughts? Did you guys see any of the videos, kind of hear the stories from your family members? Because we're all kind of closely connected to the situation. So first initial thoughts from anyone.
Initially, it brought anger, but at the end of the day, these are the same people that are killing their own. Do you not think that other people of other ethnic groups are going to be part of casualties as well? I'm not justifying it, but I understand where it could happen and why it happens. But like family back home was definitely, like my hometown of Will is a lot closer to the border of Sudan itself. So there is a lot of Northerners in Awil, and social media itself, like TikTok, has made a lot of comedy behind it, where people are like jokingly about if they're lighter skinned, they'll go out and speak in Tongmoinjang just to play it safe, saying, "Hey, I'm not from the north," and just denouncing it. But it's more of like,
oh, I didn't even see that.
So my TikTok the algorithm is a little messed up, so I get a lot of back home stuff.
Right.
But it's more like,
shout out to the TikTok ban.
Out here now, looking back at it, like, could it have been prevented? We have no clue. Is there resources that could have helped stop it? We don't know as the outsiders, and even the people back in South Sudan, they don't know because they're not in Khartoum. We're in Sudan itself on that side, because end of the day, it is a war zone, and what happens there just happens. Did they have to record it and put it out to the world? No. And that's the part I don't agree with.
I mean, the South Sudanese people didn't record the initial video.
It's not the South Sudanese. It's just the fact that there was video of people being murdered of South Sudanese descent. And do we have to record everything in this world? No, we don't have to. And they recorded it to show it off and try to make a mockery out of it, compared to just, if you're going to do it and have casualties, you just have casualties.
But it also kind of gives the power of what social media is. And this was one of the reasons why some people were trying to ban TikTok, because TikTok was showing the world from the ground. And I've not read too much into the so I'm gonna mess up the acronyms, RSF, SAF. I don't know.
That's right.
What's happening is that, based on what you just said, they took those videos for a reason, because they wanted to create a faction between two countries that's already destabilizing. So you have people from Sudan who are angry at people from South Sudan, people from South Sudan angry at people from Sudan. So it's like, okay, well, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Let's figure out a way to make it seem like our enemies is the one is killing y'all. So y'all should be on our side. And I feel like that's what's happening here, is that they are strategically trying to create this this narrative of these people are against us and now we should all fight against them.
Correct.
So you got
who's creating that narrative?
Personally, I and this is why I said like I don't know. It's about who released the videos, who is going strategizing and trying to fight and like kill South Sudanese so that they can build that narrative. It was like, well, these SAF and I think on the last episode we talked about with Darfur and how I believe it was the South Sudanese, the SAF. They were one of the first people to create genocide in Darfur.
No,
and
the
RSF
RSF is the one
was later on. No, but in the beginning, the RSF became after when Bashir gave them the go-to to go ahead and even create more genocide. So that is what is happening here. It's like they are trying to basically just pass the buck of who is making a genocide. Both of them are not good people. Both of them are not good for the Sudanese people. Both of them are not good for. Yeah, they're both just trying to fit the narrative to fit them, to make another country go against the other faction, basically.
But that also, like you said, people are mad at TikTok and social media, but I'd rather see real footage.
No. When I say people, I say the governments.
Correct.
Governments don't want those.
Correct.
Yeah.
And governments don't want people to see the truth of what's going on. And I'd rather see raw footage on all social media platforms, and then I could piece the stories how I want to perceive them.
But when y'all say the government doesn't want to see it, I mean, the government is at war.
No, when we say the government, we're saying the overall global government. Because the TikTok push, and I don't want to make this about TikTok, was being pushed because of what happening in Gaza, and people in Gaza were showing raw footages of Israel bombing them. So this is why they were trying to ban TikTok in America, because
mass media
90% of mass in TikTok was against the Israel occupation. So a lot of the other platforms will basically, if you pay them, Twitter, Facebook, etc., if you as a governmental agent in India have done this, they will
censor
the stuff that the government are doing. Okay. So that's what we meant by that.
Yeah. Okay. Vaida, go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, of course, like the video, I know, KK, you said you didn't feel like they should have recorded the South Sudanese people being killed. But like, I think with a country like South Sudan, like, or just countries, there's many countries like ours where like there's not a lot of journalism. There's not a lot of, you don't get access to information that happens. So like, of course, they might have done that to like take away their dignity as they were dying in that moment. But I think the purpose that it served did lead to like people, protesting in the streets, and they were getting out of control. I mean, they were responding to like they had rightful anger in that moment, and I don't want to take that away from them because their brothers just were dying in Sudan. So it's kind of like that. It's a thin line. I think people should be able to have access to what's going on in the world, and they should have the means to be able to do something about it. And when they don't have the means to do something about it, they go to the language that will shake things up so that they'll be able to be heard. So with the 30 days of no social media, that's really tricky, because it's just like, how are they getting access to things that are going on? How do they know what to fight for, what to not fight for, if they don't even know what's going on within the country they live in, or to their people in the neighboring country? So I think
they still know to an extent, just because they'll block it off of MTN and Zain, which is like the biggest phone companies where they get data from. But there's a lot of places where there's what you call VPNs and whatnot that people will go and still get access to social media.
I don't know if I agree with that, because even during when we were one country and like when there was like the Darfur genocide, a lot of Sudanese people say that they didn't know about the genocide in Darfur because of like the propaganda, and it wasn't being shown on media. And maybe if there was like access to like a TikTok at that time, or like social media, maybe they would have known. You can't use that anymore.
I must say this
is
and
I cut you off, but I think a lot of people don't realize how internet goes from one place to one place. So from the United States to Europe, there's only one cable that gives out internet. From Europe to Africa to Asia, it's cables. So a lot of people that are getting internet, either they're getting satellite, where like Elon Musk satellite or whatnot, but
Google
a lot of those internet are able to be cut off. So as much as you want to say like, yeah, we got TikTok and it seems like it's a network.
Yeah.
We're beaming it to the satellite. We're not beaming to the satellite. It's a tower, and that tower is connected to cables, and they are able to filter what's coming through those cables.
Yeah, even thinking about like when I talk to my family back home, like the Wi-Fi be shaky, it's on and off, the lights, it's not the best infrastructure.
And they know exactly where you're going.
Yeah.
It's not the best, so I don't think that they're getting as much like how we have access to the news, even though the news people have their ways about it, it's biased, it's being censored. We have access to some point of reference, but I don't know if they have that in a majority of places in South Sudan, especially when you get to the rural parts of the country as well.
Yeah.
If we were going to talk about the like the social media aspect of that like a little bit later in the show, but since we're on it, we should talk about it. And pretty much like, how do you guys feel about the government saying, you know what, there's a lot going on, we're just going to shut off social media? Do you guys feel like they have that's a pro, like that's a good thing that they did that to like minimize like the violence and like the spread of information? Or do you feel like that's like hindering free speech? I'm curious to see how you feel about that.
I think it's
Go ahead.
It's good and it's bad.
Yeah.
Only because if all the content's coming out as hatred content, it only paints one perspective to everybody in the masses watching it. But the bad is the fact that people can't speak how they feel, and you're kind of censoring and telling people be quiet. I know you feel this way, but shut up about it. That's the message I'm getting. You're mad, people are dying, shut up. That's the message that's coming out of it, and that's what I dislike about it.
Yeah.
But if it's more like when it comes to freedom of speech, there's no freedom of speech back home. If you go get on TikTok right now from America and say something bad about Sosa Fam, you'll find out.
There's no freedom of speech either in America.
In America, threaten the president right now. There's no freedom of speech.
Yeah.
So is there really freedom of speech? No. Everything is controlled. And as being a citizen, sometimes you're just deal with the cards that's handed to you. And if the government decides to shut down social media because they feel like what's getting out there and whatever, if there's too much tension in the air or too much going on in a certain area, I don't agree with it, but they do, and it does have a purpose, I guess.
Yeah, I don't agree. I think shutting down social media is really dangerous because it takes away the people's opportunity to let the outside world know what's going on.
Yeah.
So I don't like the fact that the government has the power to just shut down people's access to the outside world, because we need to know what's going on to be able to raise awareness and all that. So I feel like when they do that, I understand they want to like make sure people are not putting out things that can like, make tensions worse and stuff, but then that's just really scary.
Yeah.
The fact that you're shut off from the outside world, and
it kind of feels like the government is operating like the people are children in a sense. Like with children, you hide things from them because you're like, oh, they're not ready for it.
Give me that.
They're not ready to see what's going on. But we're adults. It's a large young population in South Sudan, right? But these are people that should feel more empowered to do something about their circumstance, but they're not.
Yeah.
With the current state that we're in.
And I agree with both of you guys, because like the South Sudanese people made an active decision to protest, rightfully so, which is within their right, the deaths of South Sudanese people in Sudan, which I think is like reminiscent of what every free country does. Like in America, when they see one person murdered by the police, like what do? Like, we rally everybody. We like do peaceful protests, and that's what they did in South Sudan.
So can I be
like it's like what was so extreme about that?
1 second. So with that, there was also the news of Arab-owned stores, Sudanese-owned stores being damaged, and vandalized, and everything like that.
Yeah.
The point of protesting is not to go against all. I think the misconstruction of protesting in the West and also back home. If a cop kills somebody, y'all should go protest in front of that cop's house and kick his ass. Don't go abuse all the other cops that have nothing to do with it.
Thank you.
So if anybody, y'all should have got together, got on cars, drove across the border to that neighborhood where they was at and did something there. But that's just what I got to say. Go ahead, Tarek.
As a contrarian, I will say yes, I agree with the government because the people voted for that government. They're okay with that government. So what the government does is they are a representation of the people. If you voted for that government to censor you and you are allowed it for them to censor you, how are you going to be mad at them when they do censor you? And that's my issue with a lot of people. Is like they allow stuff to happen, and then when it happens, they're like, "Oh, we don't know. Let's go protest." Like the way KK did say, it's like you protesting what then at that point? You're just protesting against innocent civilians rather than the actual
So if your government
source.
does something that you don't like, you don't have a right to protest them because you voted for them?
I think you have the right to protest, but me personally, I don't think that protest does anything because I'm done with the protesting. It's time for a revolution. If you have a problem with the government, you have to revolt against them and be like, this is not what I want. Because you walking around protesting and then burning down people who had nothing to do with what's going on, burning down their shops,
messing with their livelihood.
Can I challenge?
How is that helping anybody? That's not helping nothing.
Can I challenge KK's point about like you made the example of the correlation of if a cop did something like illegal or murdered an innocent person, an unarmed person, you shouldn't protest against like police. You should protest against that individual cop. But what if the idea is like to protest against the system that is allowing that to happen?
Did the system allow it, or did that person just do it?
But who is the system?
Because
nobody knows the system. They just say the system.
There is a system.
To answer your question, very simple. Say I drive down 635, I get pulled over, and a cop shoots me.
Yeah.
And people go crazy. I would say go find out where this cop lives, number one.
Right.
Egg his house, beat up his cars, vandalize his home, kick his ass.
No, but I think the idea.
Hey, beat that out. But it's more the facts that I'm saying.
Yeah, but I think
instead
the idea behind
and everybody
protesting
and then cops come out to control the crowds, and now people are having issues with the cops that are controlling the protests and everything else like that.
Yeah.
Now there's chaos.
Well, I think the idea that you're saying is like obviously not all police officers are
not
bad.
all.
No. Exactly, and that's that's true. But I think the idea with like the mass protests is just to because a lot of times what happens is that they will the system protects these bad apples as opposed to calling them out and, getting them out of the system. They pretty much say, no, they're a part of us and so they're aligned themselves with these bad people. So then you got to fight against the entire system. It's not to say that everybody in the government or all Arab people are bad, but there is a systematic thing that's been going on for a long time since the early 2000s.
But what do you think the ones that are in South Sudan amongst majority of South Sudanese are not of that mindset? Like, say I'm in the KKK. Why would I move to the predominantly black neighborhood and hang out there and open up a store and then white people go kill black people and then they come vandalize my shit? I had nothing to do with this. I am here hanging out with y'all.
No, I completely understand that from the Arab person that owns the store in South Sudan who's I love South Sudanese people.
It's not like they are in North Sudan doing this. They're in South Sudan, predominantly South Sudan South Sudanese around you.
Yes.
Was it just for them to have their properties and their stores blown up and vandalized? I don't agree with it.
I don't know.
Let's ask that question.
You know what you mean?
Let's ask that question.
KK needs to direct a movie called Do the Right Thing in South Sudan.
But
that's a good point, though.
But we can give a real world example here in America, in Florida, when George Zimmerman killed Trayvon Martin. People was out there protesting against the police, against stand your ground laws, against all of that. Nobody went to George Zimmerman's house. Even 2-3 years later, he sold a gun that he killed Trayvon Martin with in an auction.
And then he
made money out of it.
And then he sued Trayvon Martin's family.
Because for harassing, and this is the issue is like, and that's why I agree with what KK is saying.
But the thing is,
we're protesting the wrong people.
Even if George Zimmerman,
why are we comparing ourselves to a 13-year-old?
Because this is our point of reference here in America.
We got that point, but
we cannot have that point of reference. So we got to.
Yeah, but we can look at other governments who are just as young as us, and we can go from their perspective,
France,
and figure it out. Because, let's be honest with ourselves, the government is so young. This is the first time they're dealing with another humanitarian crisis coming to South Sudan. Like we can't pretend like they've already had the system.
This is not the first time.
Wait. What other time have we had?
2004 when 8 million South Sudanese left South Sudan because of the civil war.
No.
In South Sudan.
I'm talking about that when we have our own government now. This is the first time this government.
No, 2008, 2015.
South Sudan wasn't a thing in 2008.
2011.
2015 when it was a South Sudanese, when it was Silver Care versus Riek Machar, and 4 million South Sudanese had to go to Uganda and Kenya. That happened. Those people happen. Like people act like there's
that's
civil
not
war
the same
just
thing.
Happened. 2011.
That's displacement. I'm talking about them coming to South Sudan. This is the first time this government is specifically dealing with them coming to our country for safety.
Yes, because
That's
now that Sudan is in a civil war, there's like we're the second biggest place that they're displacing to. So we're now dealing with like displaced people for the first time.
Displaced poor people.
And we don't have the infrastructure to do with it.
There's a bunch of rich people that moved to South Sudan and made a bunch of businesses. Djibouti. Most of those hotels in Juba are ran by Djibouti and Ethiopians and Kenyans. So this is the first time we had poor people from the outside coming in and taking advantage of us. Rich people have been taking advantage of South Sudan for the longest. I mean, nobody said anything.
Taking advantage of us?
Yes. Oh. 80% of the hotels, the top 10 hotels in Juba right now, none of them are owned by outside forces. 8 of them are owned by Eritrea and Djibouti, and then the other ones owned by an Ethiopian. So yeah.
Aren't we doing the same thing in Kenya?
But hold on, Vaida.
We don't have enough money to
I wanted to speak to Tariq's point about George Zimmerman and just with the police brutality conversation. If George Zimmerman were to be, if we would have retaliated and he would have been, killed, that wouldn't have ended police brutality. That would have been targeting an individual and not a system. So whenever people protest and they're
but it was not police brutality.
Not police brutality, but like I guess stand your ground law or racism, whatever you may call it. It's just his death is very synonymous with police brutality. So I connected it. Yeah. So like even that happening, like that's why it's so important to go towards systems, because he's not coming back from the dead, right? There's no justice that happened in that situation, but to be proactive to make sure that doesn't happen again, whether in Florida or in other states, because in a lot of states,
stand your ground law is kind of expanded, but I do want to go expand your ground law expanded after that, because they saw that.
And do you think that the police and the government is going to allow you to go to a police officer's house?
Exactly. I remember they actually did try to do that for the most recent one. They did try to do that, and then there was cops standing outside of his house.
You can't do that.
He was out the house of the police officer that actually.
But it's legal to peacefully protest, and so that's what people do. They're using their legal right.
I do want to ask about what Amanual was saying. Is like, is there a difference between poor people coming to South Sudan versus rich people coming to South Sudan?
No, that's not part of the conversation.
That is part of the conversation.
I mean, it's a very big difference, because at the end of the day, they're going to be suffering just as much as like anybody else is. They have no better opportunity than any other.
I'm talking about like willingly. Poor people are not coming there willingly. Rich people come there willingly.
Yeah, so that's a very big difference. Like the rich people coming there are coming there because capitalism is there to exploit. So they're going to exploit South Sudan like they want to. That's just the system. That's how it's designed.
Can we go back to the point of the burned businesses or the businesses that were destroyed in South Sudan? North Sudanese owned businesses.
Do the right thing in South Sudan.
How do you guys feel about that? Because it seemed like you guys had different perspectives.
Hey, was just saying
Jesus
about
not Vito,
I messed up your whole name. It's okay.
It's been a year, you guys.
It's been a year, yeah.
Okay. But isn't that what you just said about the George Zimmerman? Is like, even if you go to that one person's house, it doesn't change the system.
So it wasn't strategic. I'm not saying that I advocate for the burning of those specific businesses. I honestly, I can't even say how people, I'm not in that community of people. I can't say what is the best, options for them.
Course of action,
but from the outside of, I don't know how strategic that was for their bottom line. I don't know if it was even strategic at all, or if it was just an emotional reaction. But I feel like it is important for them to exercise whatever rights they have to show that they're not upset with the current state of what's going on.
How do we know if we've never had it happen? Like, we've never had a brother go back and get vengeance for something that happened to their family, or there's something that happened to a family member. Like, if that happened on national television, where like a brother really went back for what happened to his brother, or he took out the police officer right then and there, what would the country do, and how would it react to it? Because we've never had that happen. We always say
had
peace,
that.
be peaceful, be a happy-go-lucky Negro. Yes, yes, black people who shall overcome.
Hey, I believe for the Code of Hammurabi. I live by it.
But every single time that stuff happens, we're always peaceful. And when I say we, I mean it includes
Yeah,
all black
collectively,
people.
yeah.
It's always a peaceful thing.
But I got a question.
But revolution has to be.
Hey, we
Question,
have to revolt because protests only get you a sore throat after yelling for all day. And don't
Outside
get me
in the
wrong,
cold and the
I've been an
rain.
activist. I've been protesting for Black Lives Matter and everything
Yeah.
going on
I've
since
seen
2020.
pictures.
I agree with protests, but I've learned that protest only gets you so far. When do you put action behind what you're protesting?
What is action?
Action is forcing change.
How do
Action
you
does
do
not
that?
mean you have to go vandalize somebody's property, but action is calling accountability for the people who did something and forcing accountability upon those people.
And so how do you do that? And that's the thing. I think
How
a
do you
lot
do
of,
it?
a lot of people
You
see
take
it
a couple
differently. 'Cause
choppers.
a lot of people think that action
Let me tell you.
action was burning down those
Let me tell you.
Okay, so
That may not be the right answer.
we have the
What's the right
perfect
answer?
we have the perfect example. In the United States.
Oh, wait. Let me finish, Al. Stand. Action would be taken, get a couple of choppers, fly to that city where that took part, put a couple of soldiers down there, and light up the military forces that are there from both sides. Doesn't matter which one.
Oh,
Wow.
yoy.
That's
Chai,
action.
chai, 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 chai.
Triple. That's too much. That's too much.
That's too
South
much.
Sudan being involved in that is like
And a
that's
war.
triple war.
We don't need
But
no
it's not the wars. It's more of making a stance of you don't mess with our people, we won't mess with yours.
Yeah.
I will say
Because
though,
if you draw a line in the sand and somebody crosses that line, then what? You're going to step back and draw another line? Hey, if you cross this one, I'm going to do this. No. You have to show what you stand on. Like, you got to stand for what, you got to fight for what you believe in. And
Go
for
ahead,
me,
Manny.
I would fight for what I believe in.
I mean, he's not wrong. I mean, we've seen it happen multiple times, and the United States has only been afraid of one group of black people. Well, they've been afraid of multiple groups of black people, and they've stopped every single movement. But the most recent movement, obviously, is the Black Panthers, and Fred Hampton is a prime example of somebody. They were so afraid of him because he actually caused movement, he actually caused community building, which is another part of it. It's like you have to be terrifying with the weapons, but you also have to create community within the peace that you make.
Propaganda.
Like, yes. And also, I always tell people, how do you fight propaganda? You make other propaganda for your side. Like, people forget that.
It's a great quote that says, like, a lie goes around the world 8 times before the truth even starts.
That's true.
Because a lie is easy to say. It's simple, it's straight to the point, and it hits the neural whatever.
Bad things.
See, that's why you're
So,
smart.
Our president is the best at it.
Yeah,
Trump,
and Trump is giving you the blueprint of how to do it. It's like you give simple answers to complex questions, and people will eat it up.
DEI is a problem for the plane crashes.
Everything.
Wait,
Hey,
before
man.
we get off the
My
topic,
girl
to
cheated
answer
on
your
me,
question
DEI.
about whether it was wrong or not.
Yeah.
Just
I should have went for a white woman. No more diversity.
Come on,
Now
let's focus, guys. Come on now.
Yeah.
But I do want to answer Sarah's question about whether we think that it was wrong for the Sudanese businesses to be burned down, and I think people were actually killed as well.
Oh wow.
It has to be
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah, that would be your opinion, but for me, I do think it's wrong because I do think the protesting was necessary. I think when it becomes violent and people get killed, it takes away from the whole message of the protest, and it makes it into this like whole other thing to where now they're saying like, oh, you're the bad guys because you guys burned these businesses and killed these people, instead of like what was the main point of the protest. So that's my only thing. And like innocent people now, let's say in Sudan or wherever, now they're targeting South Sudanese people, and it's like innocent people get brought into it. So that was my only like
So
issue with it.
may I ask who are they protesting then at that point?
I think they were protesting to bring awareness because there's this conversation about like the reason why they were able to do that in Sudan is because who's going to defend the South Sudanese people? Like, is the government going to step up and do something
The South
for them?
Sudanese government.
No, they're not.
In Sudan?
But so if why are you protesting the people that killed you when your own government is not protecting
I think the
you?
people were calling for them for something to be done about this.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. And
But how does it help burning down Sudanese?
I think it got out of
I got a
control.
question.
To our audience that may not like be South Sudanese or understand, I think also like the recent killings of South Sudanese in Sudan. Like obviously we just became a new country from Sudan in
There's
2011.
already so much tension
There's
there in
already
history.
tension there. So much history of like feeling marginalized. And so I feel like this was just triggering to South Sudanese people to see like 16 South Sudanese people being murdered on camera.
Racial slurs.
The racial slurs. They were like, kind of like calling them like Junubin, like making that distinction between.
Could I just ask a question?
So the way that they were saying
KK
that.
Go ahead.
It's not really a question, just a scenario. Just imagine, hypothetically, Mexico, two political groups that are fighting against each other.
Mm-hmm.
There's 16 American citizens, Caucasians to be exact.
Yeah.
Recorded being murdered and being called names instead, gringos, whatever it is. What response would the American government do? I guarantee you would have no protest. Listen, it wouldn't be a protest. I guarantee you would have at least 6 Navy SEAL teams there, a couple of Black Ops, couple, maybe 1,000 soldiers within that same 3-mile radius of where it happened.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, the South Sudanese government, I don't know if they don't have the resources or they're like work
they have
hand
the
in
resources.
hand,
The money.
They work hand in hand with Sudan. They're not going to do that. So this is a thing about South Sudanese civilians protesting.
The civilians are poor.
Listen,
they're in poverty. Why is the civilian protesting?
So
why is the government?
Okay?
The government should be the one protesting.
So if that was to happen,
protest your government.
But the government is not.
Hey, but if that was to happen, hypothetically, my scenario happened. Do you think we'd go protest the taco spots and the Mexican restaurants that we be at and the Mexican stores? We would not.
Right.
Because that does not do nothing for us.
But that's the thing.
Because
what is the correct answer?
The correct answer, the government should have retaliated put forces within the city and the grounds of where it happened, no matter if it's a war zone or not.
Because what happened when that rogue general went against Silva Care? They went out in his compound and started fighting against his people. So you telling me that the government just don't have the power to go and extract South Sudanese people from Sudan? Or
worst comes to worst,
put out a line, like you say, like this is the line that you cannot cross. If you cross it, we're gonna have to attack you.
Correct. And if that worst comes to worst,
government just sits in the back and then the people protest.
I would have took all the people that's in the Blue House, gave them weapons, say go fight. If you come back, you're free.
It's a lot of people working for peace when peace is never on the table.
Peace was never there.
They just talk about peace, but peace was never on the table. It looks good on camera when you say, "Oh, we're speaking about peace."
I've never heard of this piece. I'm sorry.
It's like, okay, how does this peace?
Did the government
why is there peace on one side?
Or was anything? Did the government ever come out with a statement or anything denouncing the killings of the South Sudanese in Sudan?
Yes, he did denounce the killings, but he also didn't want like retaliation, which he also made a statement about that. So he denounced the killings of South Sudanese, also denounced like retaliation, and that's why in the aftermath they shut down social media because they didn't want it to like promote more like violence.
Do you think that was good enough, like his statement?
I don't know what's good enough.
But I think he should have had a stronger stance as far as this is unacceptable and like. As far as South Sudanese citizens go, we will do something like, I don't know, say something that shows that, you're behind your people.
Do you know what's the strongest stance? What? Sudan's main money maker is oil. Cut off the oil. Because all the oil from South Sudan goes to Sudan to get refined. But
oil's been cut off.
No, you can cut off the oil.
But oil's been cut off.
It's been cut off, but the people who's making the money off of that oil are still from Sudan. They're still quote unquote Arab.
Correct.
The richest person in South Sudan right now, he is from Sudan. I forgot his name, but he is an Arab. He's from Sudan. So cut off the oil, cut off you can do sanctions because their money is coming from South Sudanese oil. So that could have easily been done by the government of Sudan. But being that they're corrupt and their money comes from them, from the people in Sudan, they will just sit back and let the people do this protest.
To answer Christine's question, no. Do I think that the statement was good enough? No, I don't think it was good enough. But I also feel like it's strategic as well because I do think that he's working with Sudan and he's working with. It was stated that he was actually doing peacekeeping.
I need our leaders to
Sudan,
be specific
with the Sudan leaders, which is crazy because our country's not even good.
It's 2025. I need our leaders to be specific. What do you mean by peace? Peace is such a broad blanket term,
but peace is one side. We had no problem with you.
She's correct. What do you specifically?
What do you mean by that? What does that mean? Like, are you going to send South Sudanese people in South Sudan to look out for our people while they're there? Are you is there going to be a consequence for the action?
Get reparations.
Are the people who did it going to be responsible, because one thing for sure, you're not going to take a video of yourself killing South Sudanese people if you respect South Sudan as a nation.
And you know
if you know the repercussions are going to be severe, you're not going to do that. But they don't respect us as a nation.
We're working on peace.
Well, when I say he was working with Sudan on peace, I'm talking about like the Sudanese civil war before this happened. Like Salva Kiir was apparently like one of the leaders that were helping facilitate reconciliation between Burhan and Hemeti.
I don't know what
goes to KK.
So that's why I feel like he's not taking a strong stance, because he's mixed in with these people. So no, do I think it's good enough?
Could be true, yeah.
Do I think it's good enough? But do you expect our leaders they're not even suffering these consequences of all of this? Like,
so who can
they will never feel it like the civilians. The civilians
Sudan
will. So I feel like the civilians are answering as much the best that they can answer. It may not be correct in our standards, but at the end of the day, they're trying to protest. They're burning down businesses. Not saying that that's right, but it's like they're trying to figure out a way to answer to like the murders of their people better than the government.
But that's not a good thing. But that's kind of goes to what KK.
But we're saying that it's not good. But it's like, okay, what is the good answer? Like, what can we provide? How can we help?
What I'm trying to say, this goes back to KK point, where it's like Mexico will never put a video out of them torturing American civilians, because they know what's going to happen, the repercussions.
Wait. Are we in the same place? That happens all the time.
Right. No, when?
Why y'all keep bringing other people?
You don't remember when they had the American citizens lined up that they
Bro,
what happened
I can tell you that right now. They do not have.
What happened in that area?
They do not have American. Did
America not retaliate?
America didn't retaliate. The what's called.
It was an American.
They took them all.
Like
out.
3 people that was buying drugs across the border, and that whole city.
I guarantee you, wherever it is that Americans get tortured and killed on camera, there's a drone coming within 45 seconds.
It's not even about
right there.
I'm just saying.
South Sudan, America.
America
think that's something that
we can kill 3 million of our own people.
Emulate, because I feel like every nation, if you do not protect your citizens and your people, are you a nation?
They take advantage of you.
You know, so it's just
it's political. It's not even about the fact of who these people are. It's the fact that you mess with the people that come from our nation.
Exactly.
It's very strategic,
especially based on the history.
Like, do you think Sudan could have killed Ethiopians and put it on camera?
Absolutely not.
Kenyans and put it on camera, because those governments will. Ugandan, they'll put an air force and be like, we're going to extract those people out. We're going to decimate whatever economy that you have, and we're going to put sanctions and we just
it just shows that they can do whatever they want to us. Similar to like what happened with that baby in Egypt. Remember the baby, what was it, Janet in Egypt?
Yes.
Exactly.
They can do whatever they want to us, because no one is going to.
And that's the whole. That's the whole conversation, is that who protects South Sudanese citizens.
But then also, again, there was like a claim made by the Sudanese armed forces that 65% of South Sudanese are part of the RSF. I think saying that is trying to say like, we're in a war. It's like they're casualties of war. Exactly. It's not about like South Sudanese. It's like if you're part of the RSF, you're our enemy. It's like this is war. And
so
that's it. That's all.
I don't want to make
as a young nation, do we have enough military power to even like really get on this stance?
We have enough military power
to take each other out. Like we have enough military power to take each other out.
Yeah, to take our own each other out.
I mean, is it our military power or is it the West funding?
So, Tarek, we're gonna make a little.
Okay, let's divert it to somebody else.
We're gonna do a little propaganda to all my people abroad, all people back home in South Sudan. We are doing a peaceful protest. I need all you guys to gather on a date on a certain time in the farmost region area next to the Nile River. Mm-hmm. And if the government does nothing, we would peacefully exfoliate ourselves into the river and let it float up north.
The river do flow up north, and then
all right, bring it in.
All right.
But I don't think y'all understood what he was trying to say.
Reel it in.
I might have to watch this.
No,
back
meaning peacefully. We are going to invade another country.
I think it say turn the Nile to the River Ganges.
Okay, so I want to read.
It's technically our land.
It's not the blue Nile anymore; it's the brown Nile.
I want to read a comment by Sana Arman, who we're actually working on collaborating on an episode, hopefully soon. But she's actually both Sudanese and South Sudanese, and she posted something on her X, or it's called X now, right?
Twitter.
Twitter, or formerly known as Twitter. She said, those justifying the genocidal actions of the Sudanese armed forces against indigenous North and South Sudanese are likely the same ones who said SFA is killing us during the December Revolution. You want the law to apply to you and not to others because you're selective about which lives matter in Sudan. Sudan wasn't destroyed only by Islamists who created the RSF and now pretending to be the heroes, but also by ordinary Sudanese who view Sudan from the Islamist lens, who don't see themselves in the people of Darfur, Nuba Mountains, South Kordofan, or South Sudanese. South Kordofan. The murder of the South Sudanese people are also kind of downplaying that as well. And it's reminiscent of like what happened to South Sudanese during, during the first and second civil war, when over 400,000 people were murdered, killed, genocide happened against people who look like us, people in Darfur, Blue Nile, South Kordofan. And it's like, some people will say, oh, you guys are over exaggerating. That's not what happened. It didn't happen that way. So there are some people who are now saying like, those people were part of the RSF. So that's why they got killed. Like, stop making this a thing about race or ethnic cleansing. So that was her response to that. And so I wanted to read that because I think that it's important to kind of see how this ties back into the history of Sudan and South Sudan.
Yeah.
And then she made one more comment that I think is also interesting. She said, South Sudanese people in the diaspora advocating violence back home literally live with Sudani people within a couple miles, but they aren't doing shit to them in Aussie, US, or Europe. So encouraging the people back home is crazy. Like, actually shut up. So pretty much like, I agree with that too. You're not back home. So you actually hyping people up back home to violence to your neighbor when you're not even going to do anything. And I think that's what happened too during the 2013 between like the Dinka and the Nuer, and how people were in the comfort of their homes, kind of like promoting violence against tribes and like promoting tribalism that's not going to affect you here in America, but is going to make a huge impact in South Sudan where people are actually dying. So I agreed with that too. So I liked seeing her like having a nuanced perspective, not just calling out Sudanese people, but also South Sudanese people and everybody that's not being a part of the solution. So,
but
yeah.
It's
How
not.
do you feel about that?
We have to stop about South Sudanese versus South Sudanese. It's not the people against each other. Every South Sudanese person born before 2011, you are Sudanese. Your birth certificate says Sudanese. But it's these people, RSF, SAF, those are the people who is actually doing the wrongdoing. It's not the people. The people are against those two factions. So when somebody says like, oh, well, you're not back home, you're not fighting against South Sudanese, shouldn't be fight a Sudanese population if it's just a person. It's those military structures that are trying to cause a division amongst the people and make them choose a side and make them go against war against each other. So, me personally, I think the RSF or the SAF, they're both horrible entities that shouldn't, like, nobody should take either of their side. Nobody should accept any propaganda that they give out. Nobody should accept any, even if they do win and they become the government of Sudan, you should be fighting against them and be like, no, this is not the government that we chose unless we go out and vote for them. But like the way I say it with South Sudan is like, once you vote for that government, you have to accept that government. So that's my thing is like the people have to rise up against those people who are in power and kick them out, basically.
But like Dr. Al-Amin said in the last episode, there's regular, everyday Sudanese people who oil like racism, who are okay with the status quo of like the Arab privilege, pretty much.
But that's everybody though.
But that's not okay.
It's about education.
But it's not okay. There's South, even in Sudan right now. Like so we said,
there's none of those people in South Sudan.
Blue Nile, Darfur, South Kordofan. There's people in Sudan right now that are still being marginalized. Even though South Sudan is a separate country, those people, why do you think they're being marginalized? Because they're not ethnically the same.
So you think in South Sudan, no Dinka person thinks a Nuer person is a bad person. No Nuer person thinks a Dinka person is a bad person, et cetera, et cetera. Those are people who are educated by propaganda, and they just need to be de-educated and be told a different view of the world.
I understand that, but why do you? But I think the part that frustrates me is like it's like the what about ism? What about this? And what about that? It just because tribalism is wrong does not mean that people being ethnically cleansed is like, oh well, it doesn't matter because we have tribalism.
That's
it's like
tribalism,
that, but they're both wrong. So what is your
point?
And
I said both of those two entities are horrible because
then what are we talking about?
What happening in Darfur, the ethnic cleansing that happened in Darfur was happening in both sides, but RSF was the one who led the charge in ethnically cleansing those people, and they came back to a hero's welcome in Khartoum, and that's what happened with the Arab Spring and all those people getting kicked out. It's the people when they go and they burn down Sudanese or any other person's businesses, you're not doing anything to the people that you actually want to hurt. The RSF, the SAF, they don't give a damn about those businesses. So you burn down a business for no reason.
I don't think any of us agree with the burning of businesses.
I think our government of South Sudan.
That's who we're gonna go after, the government.
I think our government should have
both
sent
countries
a few little charter planes, maybe some buses, whatever it is.
We ain't got no planes though. It's all Uganda. It's all Uganda.
Hey man, just follow Trump's orders and just
listen,
put a little tariff.
They could have sent some type of transportation to try to gather people.
Export.
Yeah,
just to get some people, just to get our citizens out of that area, whoever is there, where anybody make a destination saying all South Sudanese citizens gather here in this area. And I'll be there in 3 days to come pick up citizens and bring them back home.
That should have been the first thing. I feel like the government should have been the first point of order. Be like, okay.
And if it has to be escorted by military, use our military to escort these people out.
Exactly. I feel like that would have.
That's it.
But at least that way we show our presence. Mm-hmm. The fact that our presence is not shown amongst something horrific as this.
Show that you're a nation. We're a young nation, new nation, but still show that you're going to stand up for your people in some capacity.
Let's talk about peace.
It's the word peace. Yeah.
I can't wait to find that peace talk.
Well, yes. I guess we can go around and get final thoughts. Yeah.
The South Sudanese government is like an uncle who got two women that are cheating on each other.
No, we should end it with Amanual.
No, go ahead, Amanual. Can you say that
again? Go ahead, Amanual. Repeat it back.
Can you repeat that one more time?
It's like you were telling a story.
It's like an uncle that's like trying to prevent the two aunties from cheating. They were cheating, and he was with both of them. They fighting over him, and he's just like, hey, Kalas.
Y'all both can be my wives. Right?
We can bring peace.
Yes.
I'm still gonna be with both of you, but you know.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't know. That took a dark turn.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Uncles and aunties
any other final thoughts?
Cheating on each other. I don't know what's going on.
Final thoughts. Very much so. Like, I think, like, what I thought of was, what did I think? I thought of just like how of course we went. That would have been nice. The response. We don't
know what to say, man.
The response that would have been favorable. Let me finish. Let me land. The response that would have been favorable would be like, let's say like a presence, a military presence, or like even with Colombia, whenever like Trump's like, I'm sending y'all back under my plane. Mm-hmm. Colombia's just like, no, I'm actually gonna send my own plane to get my people. That kind of thing. I was like, okay, that's like taking a little initiative. Like you're showing like I'm not. No, we can get our people. We can do this. So I don't know. So I feel like we should have shown more. As the South Sudanese government, we should have shown more. But I also thought of what are the welfare things that we're doing for our own people within our own country. Just right now, I'm talking about before this even happened. So I
think they show every day that they don't give
exactly. So that was my concern. I'm just like, okay, we show every day that we're not really caring about people as much as we should. So how are we going to care about people that are not even in the same country as us? But very much so, just wishing the best for South Sudan and just hoping that this is the beginning of something greater as far as strategizing and making sure that we have a South Sudan that everyone, not just the people that are wealthy or have access to powerful people, can benefit from. I'm still looking forward to going to South Sudan too. So I really just hope and pray that South Sudan lives up to its potential within my lifetime. So
I do want to say that throughout this whole thing, everything that I always say is like I'm against governments and military and rich people. it's the people that needs to stand up against those people. So when all these protests are coming and you're going against other people who are of you, you're going against what's supposed to be helping you. Go against the government, go against the military. Those are the people that's fucking you over. Eat the rich. Those are the people that's really messing you with your life.
My final thoughts is just we want the best for our people, but also want the best for the situation we're in.
Yes.
Let's not overreact to our neighbors if they have not harmed us. And when I say neighbors, I mean the people living down the streets and the stores that we go to and everything else like that. But let's also try to ask our government to stand up for us and make things right on our behalf. If not make things right, just show our presence.
Yeah.
And not let us be swept under the rug.
Damn, that's what I wanted to say.
I do want to hear your final thoughts because I feel like you have history in both Sudan and South Sudan. And obviously, our history is one and the same with Sudan, but you have family from Sudan that you can kind of be that bridging that gap.
Yeah, I mean, just basically what I said earlier. I don't, not only just because of what's going on, but I don't think that like burning down the businesses and killing people really helped because I feel like it took attention away from what was happening. And it's innocent people at the end of the day that have nothing to do. They just happen to live in a neighborhood or live in South Sudan. And I don't want like that to spread out throughout the world to where now we're like actually doing violent things to each other. Even in Sudan or Egypt, like South Sudanese people who are innocent are being attacked.
Yeah.
Like Tarek said earlier, before 2011, there was just Sudan. There wasn't a South Sudan or a Sudan. So we do have that shared common history no matter what. And I think the people are always like the innocent ones that get caught in the middle, which is really unfortunate. But I just don't want us like on our platform or through social media to further spread, I don't know, like divisiveness or call for any violence or anything like that. I think that's the most important thing because I do think it's a issue with like the leaders in the government. It's not like an issue with the people. Yeah. So it's just unfortunate to see. It was really sad to see like the videos online. It was disgusting. And I think that racism is still a huge issue.
Yeah.
So I just, moving forward, want to see the South Sudanese government kind of be more vocal. Yes.
Yeah.
Colorism.
Yes.
And
tribalism.
All in South Sudan. And I think that's what makes this conversation complicated because there's so many different layers. It's not just like one thing.
Yeah.
Because, when we talk about it, like Tarek brings up tribalism, which is also a huge thing in South Sudan. And then we're also talking about like ethnic issues.
It's just the othering
so
of people,
many things
like trying to create that separation all the time. It's like human beings, we're always going to try to find like, okay, I have brown eyes, you have blue eyes. Okay, exactly. So
you're from Dallas. You're from
exactly.
But I do think that there needs to be like Dr. Nazreen said in our last episode. You guys should check that out about the history of Sudan and like the history of armed conflict. There needs to be accountability, and there needs to be like taboo issues addressed. And I do think there's a really big like racism issue in Sudan. Which is why one of the reasons why South Sudan had to split, and it hasn't ended from with us splitting. There's still marginalized people in the region, and I think
we're still Sudanese. Like even though we split, that doesn't mean that all the dark skinned people moved to South Sudan. There's
still
so many different groups of people and tribes.
Light skinned South Sudanese.
Exactly. So I think when we just use that, skin tone to classify, like, I don't think that works because Sudan is such a diverse country even before we ended up splitting. So I just think that it's just the identity politics or issue with like Sudan.
Yeah.
No, but never ending.
I think that needs to be addressed as well, along with like classism and like, the use of like the military to be the government, like democracy. All of these issues need to be addressed, and it's complicated to just do it in one sitting in one episode.
And using people as the pawns, because I mean, us killing each other and fighting against each other and discriminating against each other based on skin tone or whether you're Arab or you're African, I just feel like that just plays into the interest of the people in power, because while we're fighting amongst each other, they're like taking all the resources, and the people, we're all suffering, whether you're light skinned or dark skinned. Like,
because the president of South Sudan,
the person, Dr. Nasreen, she
kind
of pointed out this whole war started off of one guy who didn't want to go to jail in Sudan, and she kind of pointed out how that started, because they was going to take him to jail for war crimes in Darfur.
Yeah,
and he didn't want to go to war, so he basically started this.
She didn't say that.
No,
but she didn't say that.
No, y'all, we gotta get out of here.
One more thing.
She didn't say.
One more thing.
Vaida.
One more thing.
Vaida, take us out. Take us out, Vaida.
Every episode I'm in.
I think it was so great that we had some Sudanese scholars, and I feel like we should have some South Sudanese scholars.
We're working on it. It's a time difference with
the
Juba
whole
and London.
scripture.
Yeah.
I said scripture, picture.
KK, why are you clearing your throat?
What happened?
No, KK,
I'm not a
scholars, people that study this research.
You came back with some money.
You're right.
Yeah.
So we had Dr. Nasreen as a Sudanese scholar kind of brief us on what's going on in Sudan. Before this even happened, before South Sudanese people were killed in Sudan, she kind of briefed us on the history. Timing is crazy, right? Because right after we posted that episode,
that happened.
This happened. But we also would love to have a South Sudanese scholar be on the show. We have been in communication with some of our elders who we consider scholars because they were there at the time of the First and Second Civil Wars, and they know all of the stuff that happened. But if you know someone, please email us.
I am appalled.
ladiesofsosa@gmail.com.
I've never been insulted so much in my life.
Okay, please.
I have never been insulted so much in my life.
But
It's your own people.
Hope you guys enjoyed this episode.
Yes.
Leave a comment. Let us know how you guys feel. You may agree or disagree with me, KK, like Christine, any of us. It's okay to disagree
Don't disagree with
respectfully in
me,
the
I'm a scholar.
comments. Let us know how you feel, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe.
Yes, bye.
And I do reply to every comment.
He does.